One day while reading history, I paused to take a sigh about the land Afghanistan, where empires go to die. Alexander the Great, he tried and failed. The Mongols, they did too. The British and the Russians, they got their ass kicked too. America's been there many years, and I ask myself why we don't learn from history, where empires go to die. They say it's terrorism, that's political malarkey. Just follow where the money goes to a corporate oligarchy. The food crops they once grew with a plow and a hoe, been turned into opium poppies, growing row on row. Our infrastructure's crumbling, our social structure too. It's a corporate scam, they don't give a damn while screwing over me and you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Now, John, I told you, don't lie. Maybe not the best, not the worst, but we are on radio, so that part is true. Tonight, we have a great guest on who goes and travels the country looking for, well, stuff in the paranormal. He writes a blog. He's going to come out soon with 6 great books about his endeavors. That's Michael Huntington. And out in the background, being quiet as a mouse, is James Chrisbaum Jr.
Yes, sir. I'm right here.
Well, Michael, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
So anyway, I was going to say I had a trucker on my show a while back, and going through a desert in Texas, he was just cruising. I don't know if he was listening to my show or not, but I was hoping he would be anyway. He looks out the side window on the driver's side, and he notices this cow going head first up in the sky with a light kind of on it. And first thing he said, he didn't notice any ropes, chains, or anything. But that next morning, when he got back to his boss, he goes, you know what? I am not going to do any more long hauls. I've seen too many strange things of the paranormal, and I just can't deal with it anymore. So, I mean, can you imagine what trekkers go out and they see all this paranormal stuff? And, you know, people are more open now, Michael, than they have been in years about UFOs or ghosts or Bigfoot or Mothman or Thunderbird. But yet some people are scared, to open up their mouth and say, hey, I was abducted, or, anything like that. Have you interviewed anybody while you were making all these trips that claimed they were abducted by aliens?
Yes. I visit quite a few UFO conferences. So there's always a variety of UFO enthusiasts that range from, people that are just into the subject, that haven't really had an encounter, to people that full-on claim to be from, the Draconis star system. It does range the gamut there. People that legitimately believe that they've had some sort of abduction experience, they are, and you can kind of tell from their essence. I've met like Calvin Parker and Travis Walton. I've met a a lot of the big guys, but I've also met a lot of, people that generally, regular experiencers that attend conferences. And they tend to be people that don't really want the attention for this, but they have it anyway. And, it profoundly has affected their lives. The entirety of their lives has been influenced by this. And you can tell somebody who, is maybe they're, a new age type person that maybe, wants to live in this sort of abductee fantasy. We're not talking about those type of people. We're talking about, general abductees, real abductees. Well, I can't even say real. What's real? Genuine abductees, I think, are profoundly moved by their experience, and to an emotional extent, to where they emotionally react. Where, if they're recounting what they went through, you can see the visceral emotions, conveyed through them telling the story. Can somebody be a great storyteller? Can somebody be a good con man and convey emotions? That's certainly possible. But when you get some of these folks alone and you're talking to them one-on-one, you can generally tell. And I've been to a number of these. You can tell if somebody's trying to sell you something or not. And there are people out there that have experienced stuff that claim to have been taken on board alien craft and given examinations, and that it was real. And how did they deal with it? That's really the focus of the story. How we deal with it is, we can take their word for it or not. Science demands some sort of evidence beyond the anecdotal. We can't just necessarily take somebody's word for something, but the credibility of some of these people, I think, are really what lends weight to their story. Travis Walton and Calvin Parker, those are a couple of the top abduction cases of all time, and they really stand more on the credibility of the witnesses, more so than on any evidence that has ever been put forward, which is really not much at all.
Well, Calvin Parker's been on my show, James, about 4 times, and he's coming on here again in November when we go to 4 hours.
Yeah, at least
guy.
4 times.
I find, like, with Calvin, or even like with Timothy Cullen, okay, again, he had the implant removed from Dr. Roger Lear. And when the implant was analyzed, it had silver and some other content, but it was nothing it could have been formulated on Earth and put together the way it was. It makes you wonder, okay, that we know something happened to him. We don't know what, but, it's funny. The first couple times I've had them on my show, they'll say a little bit, right? But then after they get to know you, and they've been on your show several times, they'll start telling you more and more. Like with Calvin, one of the questions he finally admitted to, I asked him, I said, do you feel that these aliens that have abducted you were here to serve men, or were they evil? His fastest word out of his mouth was evil.
Yeah. Yeah, and when he tells you that, I don't think he's necessarily being judgmental. I think he's being honest, because that's what Calvin is. He's an honest Southern boy. That's what. Well, he's a man now, but he's a good old Southern boy, and he's going to tell you like it is. And he comes from a regular background, of education, of working. So you can spend all day talking about, the various ethics and philosophies of, different civilizations, and whether or not you should, judge cultures and all that. To him, it was evil, certainly because of what they did, and it was a violation, and they did something that they weren't supposed to do, and there are those interpretations within experiencers. Is what happened to experiencers, abductees. Some people don't even use the term abductee. It's just all about the experience. If it's some sort of gift. But some people are totally with the term abductee because it was a kidnapping, it was a violation, it was an evil act, and not every experience or case or abduction out there, is a positive sort of thing, where the Star Brothers are, helping us, achieve a higher consciousness, or, wanting us to save our planet from nuclear annihilation. There are cases where literally people were tortured for no other reason than to be tortured.
That's what I think.
There are cases out there like that. And, so Travis was there. Travis experienced what he experienced, in his mind, and probably in reality, based upon other witnesses as well. And the essence that he got was that they were malevolent, and or at least absent any sort of empathy. Malevolence can certainly be perceived as being an absence of empathy, and I think that's probably what you get, with the cold scientific analysis of some of these creatures that are doing this. But then again, some of them out there do, like I said, appear to be. Let's set fire to these units and see what happens.
Yeah,
there are cases of that.
Well, what gets me is I've had some guests on my show, like you mentioned earlier. I think there's some people out there trying to take advantage to sell a book, for example, or they want their 5 minutes of fame. But I remember having this, PhD, a famous PhD on my show. And, during the first half an hour I had her on the show, she seemed normal. Then all of a sudden she started talking about, how they communicate with her when she's sleeping. And then she started saying, there's 25 million cloaked spaceships, alien UFOs, circulating the Earth to keep our Earth safe. And then I started thinking, 25 million? If they're investing 25 million cloaked spaceships, UFOs, to keep us safe from what? Number one. Number two is if they're here to help mankind, well, then what's going on with Antarctica? What's going on with what's happening in Washington, D.C.? What's going on all around worldwide? I didn't buy it after that. I tell you that. Now, James, you had a couple questions?
It was just cracking me up when you bring up that 25 million UFOs. That's a lot of space junk floating around. But anyway, I wanted to ask Michael, of all the cases you've investigated, what's the one that really sticks out most in your mind that intrigues you, maybe with trace evidence or something that really made you scratch your head or shake your head about?
Well, do you want me to talk about UFOs or ghosts or Bigfoot? Because there's sort of...
No, UFOs.
UFOs? Okay, well... there have been several occasions where I've, researched locations thoroughly, down to where objects supposedly had landed. And there are a couple of cases that I've researched from the 60s and the 50s that had landed